I'm Mersiha Smailovic. I'm a woman, I'm a lawyer, Muslim, feminist, activist. But lately, people address me as an influencer. How this happened? How do I enter in this story? One local woman asked for me to put on my social media account her new business that she did, the pastry. As I did put on my social media, her rate began to be higher. So I understand that I can do on my social media, use my social account for rating. So what am I doing? I'm recommending on my Instagram profile, on my social media, a coffee shop in the old bazaar, a souvenirs, a food, a lots of food. And I do it for free, for the pleasure of helping the local, and especially female-owned businesses, since myself, I run one. But I'm not here to speak about social marketing. My story, on the other hand, didn't start so glamorous. I was born as a second girl in a classical Balkan family. And here we are. The golden child, my sister, the prince, my brother, and me. The invisible child that turned rebel. So from early on, I was always on the side of discriminated, and I had a deep sense of how injustice can hurt people. I didn't have photos of me when I was a baby. You know, another girl in the family, so we have already one. But don't feel sorry for me. I compensated that later. But I think that I overdid a little bit. So let's get back to the rebellious side. When I start speaking about the rebellious part and the Muslim, I will advise you to not Google Muslim woman rebel. I can only imagine what will pop up in your phones. So I do it in the Balkan way, the My Balkan story. That means that you have to fight for survival. It meant that you have to doing what was grassrooted, what was authentic. So there was a couple of events that put focus on me and that undertake them spontaneously. Me and a bunch of people were young, bold, and naive. What were the first thing that I do in my story? First was starting to wearing a headscarf. So I became a practicing Muslim woman. The question that I was being asked on the daily basis, do I shower with it? Do I sleep with it, with my headscarf? And in that moment, I only had one issue. Does my head look big when I put it? And since I was the first to do in my family, looking like this, and I was the only one at my law faculty, many of the friends and the people predict me that it will do me a harm, that I will face many obstacles. First one was not having, and since I started wearing it, somehow I start feeling the discrimination. I had a sense when injustice is happening. But with the headscarf, I was the first one to feel it. The first one was when I was not allowed to wear it on my ID and my passport. So I took a bold and naive function, and I undertake a big campaign to change it. It seemed like I had a big team around me, but we were just a couple of friends. And like I mentioned, young, bold, and naive. Even some individuals from my community were against it. But very soon, I had allies. Allies from our community that help us this campaign to be wider, louder. That was the Orthodox nun, who also faced the same obstacles, same discrimination. But also the allies were my professor from my law university, who were also feeling that is injustice and discrimination for traditional Macedonian women too, because they also wear headscarf, like their grandmothers. So we won. The law has been changed. I learned that it doesn't matter how you choose to be an activist. It only matters that you act in the right moment. So we did. In this case that I showed you before, it was personal. It affected me directly. I felt the discrimination. I felt the injustice. That this injustice that I felt personally shaped me as an activist and installed in me some form of empathy that was my driving force during my other activities that I was doing. Then, let's make the long story short. 10 years after, 2015, there was a huge refugee crisis happening in our country. Again, I couldn't just stand still and watching all the suffering that the people are facing when they're going through our country. Those people were running from the war, from conflict, and when they come to our country, because it was illegally for them to help, it was illegally for them to move freely to our country. What we did, it was the same feeling that we urge to help them, the same feeling that we need to end the injustice and discrimination. And we organized humanitarian aid along with this campaign of changing the legal frame. What we did first, we were changing the legal frame, and as you know, we won for the short period, but yeah, we won. Alongside with the humanitarian aid was the change of the law for them to transit legally and freely to our country. And again, it seems like I had a big team, and it was just a couple of the enthusiastic individuals that was around me. They were still bold, still naive, but we were not so young anymore. But yet, in the Balkans, we are always in some form of readiness. What will happen now? What will change now? What will harm us now? And it seemed to be an endless way to become a voice of someone that needs his voice to be heard. This is why we need more activists. That is why we need more people to work. Half of our world, half of our society is essentially voiceless. They cannot adequately act on behalf of their own cause. But that doesn't mean that their voice, their needs doesn't need to be heard. In this portion of population who has enough, did enough, then couldn't we all have enough? You will say, and I believe sometimes, it's utopia. And you are thinking, why? It is an impossible goal to achieve. We cannot save all oppressed women. We cannot save all neglected children and refugees. And I know it doesn't have sense. We cannot do everything. We cannot fix all the injustice in the world. And every day, it's a group. It's every day, it's a woman, individual person. But I know that things are changing slowly, and we are doing. But when you think that we cannot do anything, we can't change nothing, but remember, for this woman, for this child, for this refugee, it will make a sense. To restore his faith in humanity, you can show the act of solidarity. You can show that you care for this one individual. For them, it will have a sense. It will have a meaning for this one personal story. And many people are asking, maybe me sometimes, maybe you, why are we doing this? Why am I doing this? Why you think that I'm inviting you, for you possibly to join me in this battle, in this activism? I do it together with my daughters. I join them together that we can do many things. Because I believe that this personal story is an authentic story. I gather the people around me. Well, these are my two authentic actions. You know it's all right to do when you feel calm and satisfied at the end of the day. It's hardship, it's hard, but at the end of the day, when you come home and you said, I did my thing, raised my voice, I manifest my position, I stood clearly and publicly for what was I feeling that is important. I was on the side of the one who was vulnerable in our society, in our country, in the world. And I realize that the result is not up to me. I cannot do as much as my situation is allowing me. But I just keep doing something that looks and feels right. I feel okay during the day. I feel okay during the night, knowing that I did something. Something that can make a difference. Something that can impact someone's life. Something that can change even some small steps, even a small opinion, somebody's life. But this activism, it's hard. It can take you out of the comfort zone. It can scare you. Many times you can feel scared. But you do it anyway because you have a higher purpose in your life. And while doing this for higher purpose, you are focusing on the people that need help. You are focusing on the people that they need their voice to be heard, their needs seen. And you are not calculating, you don't thinking. And especially today, we're always thinking how it will affect our brand. Is it nice we choose the battle? When we choose the battle and we know like, how will it affect me? How will people see me? How will the people treat me? But you don't do this expecting someone encouragement, someone applause, someone cheering you. Not doing something for approval and not doing something from applause. But the end of the battle, when you do it, when you're finishing, the applause will come. Thank you.